Hello.
Well, welcome. Do you hear me?
Now I hear you. Yeah.
Welcome to the Unique Perspective Show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Beautiful morning here in New York.
Where are you today?
I am actually at home right now in my
Wow.
apartment in the city.
Okay. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lakewood, New Jersey.
Okay.
Lived there till high school, and then high school I bounced around a little bit, and now here in New York.
So, what yeshivas did you go to in Lakewood? And start from there. Growing up.
So for pre-1A, I went to Comnets. Then I went to Base Atar till seventh grade, and seventh and eighth grade I went to Tashbar.
Wow. Okay. And then for high school, where did you go?
So I went to Belmar, there in Mir in Brooklyn. I was in Atlanta for like a week, and then I was in
Wow.
Indianapolis, and then I
Wow.
was in Waterbury for 12th grade.
Wow. And how was Waterbury? You- Did you like
Incredible,
Waterbury?
incredible, incredible yeshiva. I love Bari Kalish. I made a lot of close friends there as well.
And after high school, where did you go?
So I started off in TJ in Israel, and then I sort
Okay.
of bounced around all over Israel. And then I was in Asia Torah in the Old City for close to a year.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. So after coming back from Israel, what was your life about? What was life for Ben Taplin?
Great question. So when I came back, I was helping my father. My father was in the farm business. I was
Okay.
helping him out a little bit, but essentially I wanted to go to school to become a criminal defense attorney. I was
Okay.
looking into Temple University in Philadelphia and Northeastern in Boston.
Okay. But something obviously happened that you were not able to do that. What exactly transpired?
Right. So while I was working for my father, I was living by my parents in Lakewood,
Okay.
and I developed a lung infection. Beginning,
Okay.
didn't think much of it, as most 20-year-olds. When you're 20-year-old, if something hurts a little bit, you suck it up and you move on.
Right.
Essentially, it got really, really bad, and I started to have a lot of chest pain. And on January
Okay.
9, 2014, I asked my brother to call Sala, and they brought me to the hospital, and I was brought to Jersey Shore.
Okay. And in Jersey Shore, how long were you there for?
So when I first got to Jersey Shore, they knew it was some sort of pneumonia, but when they started to treat it, it wasn't that bad. And what had happened was, while I got into the hospital around 6 p.m., my father came with me,
Okay.
and shortly afterwards, the chest pain was just increasing astronomically. And I begged the doctor to just put me out. It was just too much. And that's
Okay.
pretty much all I remember. But hindsight, from what I was told, my father had left the hospital around 10 p.m. And prior to leaving, there was a nurse in the hospital who, saw my father was really nervous and said, we'll keep an extra eye on him. And they were just observing me, monitoring me, that I would be fine, taking antibiotics, and hopefully the infection would die down. The infection started my lower left lobe, and around 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock, the infection aspirated, which means it threw up internally. Now we just still don't know the cause
Wow.
of what happened, but essentially it went all over my lungs. My lungs collapsed, started going to my heart, and my body was shut down. So Jersey Shore, great hospital, but everything was just collapsing. Nothing was working. Everything they tried, you know, it was pretty much over. That nurse that went over to my father, yeah, go ahead.
No, wow. Continue.
Yeah, so that nurse that went over to my father was actually a nurse. Her name is Tamar Traub. I'm not sure if you know her at all. She was a nurse in Camp Simcha for a while, and she had done an ECMO transport from Jersey Shore to Newark, Beth Israel, and had a relationship with a doctor named Dr. Barron. And she convinced Dr. Barron to take me, which essentially saved my life. And I was put on ECMO in Newark, Beth Israel the following morning on Friday. Sorry. That's me coughing. Still do that.
Wow. So how long were you on ECMO for? And were you always in that hospital, Beth Israel?
So I was on ECMO for close to 7 weeks, which at the time was one of the longest in the world. ECMO started 10 to 15 years prior to me being on it. It started out in the neonatal units for children, and the doctor that the main doctor that was monitoring it was a man named Dr. Mark J. Zucker, who's one of the top cardiologists in the country. And I was lucky enough to have him. He actually was one of the people that tweaked ECMO and made it a lot more common for adults. And just to give you a little framework, when I was on it at that time period, if you were on it for around 2 weeks, you either died or you were taken off. I was on it for close to 7 weeks, which was a major, major feat. Now, ECMO is something that is very, very complex. It's not an easy machine to run. Today, because of COVID, it's more popular, but essentially it's a lung or heart machine inside your body. It's giving your heart and lungs, either one, a rest and doing the job. I actually have my scars from it. You can see them. I don't know how clearly, but it's a special machine, which saved my life.
Wow. So it all started after coming back from Israel, or it started in Israel first and then you came back not knowing what exactly was going on?
No, it's after Israel. I was back in America at that time, right?
Okay. So after getting off ECMO, how long did it take you to like somewhat get back to normalcy?
Great question. So I was on it for close to 7 weeks. I was still in a coma, an induced coma, for 2.5 months, which part of that was on ECMO. And then even when I woke up, which took close to a week to wake up, I was still ultimately in the hospital for a total of 6 months. So another, yeah, it was a lot longer, yeah.
What once you woke up and everything, did you remember? Did you have any recollection of what was going on, or what exactly happened to you, or what was that feeling like?
Right. No, not right away. It took some time. The way I describe it to people is like I was like a baby again, like being reborn, just a faster process. But still, when I woke up, I wasn't fully aware of what was going on. I couldn't really move, couldn't talk. I was trached. I was on very, very heavy medication. I was in a tremendous amount of pain. So I really didn't know what was going on. I knew I was in pain, but until I understood what happened, that took some more time.
Wow. So after getting home, after 6 months and being in the hospital, you came home, I'm assuming, and you still needed a lot of help, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I didn't go straight home. I actually went to Leisure Chateau in Lakewood, which is a
Right.
rehab slash nursing home. I was in the rehab part for 2 months. I went there on 6 liters of oxygen. And by the time I left, I was able to cut it. They helped me cut it down to 3 liters, and
Okay.
were helping me to start walking again. That's something that took some
Wow.
time. And even when I got home, I was still outpatient rehab. I was on
Right.
oxygen, and it was pretty difficult for me to walk. And it took a long time, a lot of rehab, and a lot of hard work to get to the point where I am today.
Right. Wow. How long? Eventually, you got off oxygen. How long did that take to finally get off oxygen, and how did you go about doing that?
So it was a long process. It took years. My
Okay.
lungs were severely damaged from the original
Right.
infection, and I still have damage in my lungs, but it was a very long process. A lot of therapy, a lot of hard work, and it's still difficult. I still have issues with exertion, and I can't really run till this day. I can't really dance. Anything that takes a lot of, breath is very difficult for me till this
Wow.
day. But I've made leaps and bounds from where I was. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of progress.
It really is. Um. So now getting past that and all that, how? I mean, I'm assuming you consider yourself breast loved. How did you get to?
I
How do
don't I
you?
don't want to say I don't want to say I'm breast love. I don't know that I am one type. I would consider myself a Jew.
Right, but I'm saying what Hasidus do you consider yourself, or you don't consider yourself like part of any Hasidus?
I wouldn't consider myself part of any specific Hasidus. I like to take different things from different sects of Judaism. For example, when you talk about Breslov, I love a lot of what Breslov stands for. For example, to constantly be happy, which is something that
Right,
you're incredible at doing. To not give up. There's a lot of beautiful parts to Breslov, which I try to incorporate in my life, but I don't want to say I'm one specific Hasidus. I've been to Uman 5 times for Rosh
wow,
Hashanah, which are some of the best Rosh Hashanahs I've ever had, but I wouldn't consider myself a specific Hasidus.
mhm. So okay, fine. But I do know that you were a volunteer for a certain organization before you got sick, and then
Yeah,
you went back on that organization as a camper. Is that true? Or
yeah.
meaning, do you know anyone that ever happened to besides you?
No, I actually, which means I was a counselor on Kids at Courage 2012, I think it was, when I was
Okay.
18, right out of high school. Kids at Courage LA trip, which was purple t-shirts for those that remember.
Okay.
Um, counselor. Then I came back as a camper for a couple of years, and then I actually went back to being a counselor. I was like Oliver Shalom's counselor, and
Wow.
another guy, David Max, Baruch Hashem. So yeah, I was the only one. I don't think anybody ever did the full sandwich. Yeah.
That's quite amazing. And so you're also involved with, I mean, another organization called High Lifeline. Um,
Yes.
is that because when you were sick, they they helped you out, or I'm saying, how did you get involved with High Lifeline?
Great question. So originally, the first organization when I was sick to help me out was when I was in the hospital in Newark. They sent speakers, people to visit me. When I was back in Lakewood, they made events for me. And I ended up becoming good friends with Lee Schwartz, founder. I was heavily involved with him. The story of how I got involved in the Chai Lifeline / Cancer Club, I was actually, when I'd gotten home after being in rehab, I was extremely sick still, well enough to be at home, but very, very weak. Couldn't do much. It was just a whole to-do just to get me out of the house. I bucket because I used to throw up. I had a lot of challenges. And Waterbury Yeshiva, where I'd gone to for 12th grade, they were making a parlor meeting. So my father schlepped me to get out of the house a little bit and said, why don't you come with me to it? And I went to the parlor meeting. I was sitting on the couch, couldn't really move. And one of the people that was there was a man named Simcha Shane, who I know you know very well. And Simcha, being the tremendous Baal Chesed he is, saw a kid on oxygen, really weak, and ran right over to me, started talking to me. And, you know, I was just being polite, talking. You know, I knew who he was, but I didn't know much about him. And we started schmoozing, and he said, why don't you come to Camp Simcha this summer? And I don't think I was so, I'm sure he'll remember better than I, but vividly I remember, you know, not being so interested, but like, if you could get me in, sure. And he ultimately got me into camp and made sure I had enough oxygen things there. He facilitated everything for me. I was too old to be a camper at that time, so he creatively got me something called a stamper, which is a staff camper, which meant that I worked, but also needed help. And Shlomo Tepper was my counselor to push me around, take care of my oxygen, etc., all my needs. And ultimately, I got much more involved in Lifeline. If I was in the hospital, again, Chai Lifeline volunteers would come visit me. But I also reversed that as well. I used to go visit campers as well, got involved in the Shabbatones, in all aspects of Chai Lifeline as well.
Wow. I actually do remember actually coming to visit you with another friend of ours in the hospital when you were in, I think it was somewhere in New York. I don't remember.
NYU.
I think it was NYU, right? It was NYU?
Yeah.
We came one night, me and Chaim Greenspan. We came to visit.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah.
But no, so fast forward, okay, Baruch Hashem, you're getting all better and getting back to yourself off oxygen and everything like that. How did you know, when did you know that it was that you were ready to get married?
Wow, it's a great question. I would say it's not one like a light bulb switch that happens. I think it takes a lot and a lot of work and years of work. And for each person, it's a very different thing. For me personally, I put in a lot of work into myself, and mentally and physically, of course, not just what you see externally, but also internally. And even so, I wasn't so sure. I had my reservations, and my father actually was the one who really convinced me to take the leap. And I was lucky that not long after I met my wife. She wasn't the first girl I dated, but it was shortly afterwards.
How did you meet your lovely wife?
So we met at a Shabbos meal here on the Upper East Side. I actually, going into the Shabbos meal, wasn't even trying anybody, wasn't even thinking about it, didn't even cross my mind. While I was there at the Shabbos meal, just acting myself, I guess, just doing me. And she saw me and we started talking a little bit. We were friendly-ish for around 2 months, and then we met at a big Shabbos meal here on the Upper East Side again, and we had a long conversation. and that was Friday night. And Sunday morning, I called her up and I asked her out.
Wow. I don't know if you want to go, but what was that conversation like that Friday night? What was that conversation about?
I would just say it was a very intimate, real conversation, really understanding where we were both at in life, what we wanted out of life, you know, the core values, our ideals. And we realized that it just made sense. Like, we're on the same page. We want similar things. So why not go for that when you have that?
Right. How long did you guys I'm assuming you guys dated, so how long did you guys date for?
It was around 10 months before we got engaged.
Wow.
I think it was 10 months. Yeah.
So it's actually I think your wedding anniversary is coming up in like a month or something. So that's pretty amazing. Wow. Wow. Yeah. What does Ben Taplin do?
I work for a pharmacy company called Polaris. We do pharmacy for nursing homes. So anybody that owns a nursing home or is an administrator, that's who I'm talking to.
And I'm assuming you like the job.
Yeah. It's a job. It's challenging, but it's also rewarding. It's something I like. I like sales. I like talking to people, so it works. I'm lucky.
Wow. So let's get back. Let's get into this. You're friends with literally the entire world. How did Ben Taplin do that? Meaning, how did
it's only natural? I just love people. For me, I just love people. So I love meeting people, and people introduce you to other people or introduce you to other people. And ultimately, you keep on meeting many more people. So being a part of many social circles and being a part of Camp Cards, you get to meet a lot of incredible people who introduce you to other incredible people. So if you've been doing that for years, you end up knowing a lot of amazing people.
Right. Wow. And I mean, there's a story out there that Mrs. Taplin did not know what she was getting herself into until you guys went out on one date or something, and people started coming over to you or something like that. Explain, please.
Yeah, I think that was my third or fourth date. Yeah, me and my wife never really crossed paths before we started dating. I know who she was. She had no idea who I was, which I think was really nice in our situation. And I planned the first 2 dates. I think this was our third date, and I planned it, and she planned and picked a certain restaurant. And I said, sure, let's go. And we went there, and I ended up knowing a lot of people there. And she's like, who are you? Like, what's going on? I was like, oh, just friends. And yeah, I think that was the first time she started to see. But it makes things a lot more fun when you have a lot of friends and people to enjoy time with.
Wow, that is quite actually a funny story that she didn't know who she was getting herself into with.
Yeah.
But I do see that you're very active on social media.
Well, I would say my wife is a lot more than I was. I used to be more, but now my wife is, I would say, a lot more than I am.
And you're also involved with the tonsors, right?
Yeah, very involved. I love Zelig and Jolie. Yes.
How did you get involved with them?
Originally, it's a good question. I think I was just at an event that they were at and saw what they were doing and the impact they were making, and just naturally got involved. A very good mutual friend of ours, Nasano Gold, is
Right.
very involved in that organization as well. It's where I met Yehuda Melman, and I don't know if I get the credit, but I was one of the people who told them, "Why don't you come to Camp Sunflower? This is where you belong." Um, but me and my friend Mo Norwitz were heavily involved with the tonsors for a very long time, and they do just incredible work. They do two main things. They start off more for, I would say, mitzvah weddings. I'll loosely translate it. And they also visit kids in the hospital and do a lot of parties for them. They're home. They do a Hanukkah party, Purim party, and just the selflessness of the people who run it and the volunteers is something that I really connected with. So I'm not as involved as I used to be, but I still am pretty involved. I actually just went to an event with them this week.
Wow. What is a mitzvah wedding? What is that? What's the definition of a mitzvah wedding for the tonsors?
So every wedding that somebody goes to is a mitzvah. I mean, doing a skala and being the samech is an incredible mitzvah. What we mean by a mitzvah wedding is usually whether the people don't have many people coming to their wedding. So it could be somebody who was an older soldier, doesn't have a lot of friends. It could be a ger, it could be a yasam, it could be bala tshuva. There's actually tanzaretz as well for the women's side, which
Wow.
Shemi Adar I know is very involved in, and some others who really do also incredible work for the women's side. But it's to really just make the chassan and kala happy and to dance in front of them and to do shtick. And the wedding should feel like every other wedding that we go to. You know, a lot of people take it for granted that we're so used to going to weddings, and Baruch Hashem, we both know a lot of people, so we usually go to weddings that have hundreds of people there. But there are people that don't have a lot of people that get married in the same halls, and the halls can be empty, and the dancing, there could be 10 to 15 people there, and it just doesn't feel the same way. The energy is not the same. So when Zelig comes in with his group and they just line up the place, it's a different ball game. It's a completely different, the whole dynamic changes. So I really connected to that, and something that I was very passionate about.
And how do they get notified of a mitzvah wedding type thing, and then they send out notification? How do they find out?
So I think every situation is different. I have been involved in a couple of them. Usually it's somebody that knows people getting married, that knows that there's not going to be a lot of people, so they'll send a message to, let's say, somebody like me, or usually at this point, because tonsors are well recognized in the community, they'll just message or Zelig or Jolie, and they'll send us a text. All they do really, they don't really tell us much information other than what time to be at the hall and which hall it is. Send us an address and say, we need a bunch of volunteers tonight who could come, and we come. And it's a lot of fun. And it's, to be honest, some of my favorite weddings are tonsors weddings because it's completely selfless. You're not going for any other reason other than to be sameach, and it feels so incredible. To all your viewers, I hope that everybody does. You don't have to do it for the tonsors, but wherever you live, whatever community you're part of, there's always situations where when people like this step up to the plate, the feeling that you get from that is just incredible.
Wow. So how could we find out more about them, and how can we find out more about the tonsors?
So either they could contact me directly, or they could Instagram and search tonsors and DM them directly, or I'm not sure if they have a website, but they could get in contact with me, and I'll put them in contact with either Zellik or Shelly.
Okay, just one final part. So after Waterbury, you went to Israel, right? And you came back and whatever. Do you have like any, I don't want to say regret, but of let's say not going straight from Lakewood yeshivas to Waterbury directly, or yeah, do you have any regret not going straight for high school to Waterbury?
No,
For
I
high
don't look at anything I had in my life as regrets.
No.
People ask me, do I regret being sick? Like if I wasn't sick. It's the same question. I think that every experience that I had in my life culminated to who I am today and made me who I am today. The only reason I appreciate the life I have, and yes, some may say I'm lacking in certain areas, is only because of all the experience I've gotten to be able to appreciate life on a simple level, to its simplicity, to breathing, walking, eating. These are things that unfortunately I had to lose in order to appreciate them. So it's all the struggles that I've been through, whether it be in high school to go to Waterbury, whether it be, whether it being, at any point in my life, it made me who I am today. I'm so grateful for that. It's challenging, yes, definitely. There are a lot of challenges that I have, but ultimately you live a fuller and happier life because of the challenges. The challenges help make you who you are, not the other way around. So not always to see that, while you're going through it, but you could take previous experiences and hopefully remember that while you're going through a challenge, and remember that it's not going to last forever, and to take that and to hopefully not only utilize it for yourself, but to make the world a better place through your challenges, helping other individuals who are suffering with similar life challenges, that you could relate to them in a way that people that have no clue. For example, a mutual friend of ours, Yochi Ruby, I was probably one of the only people that was able to relate to him in that way when he was suffering, not being able to breathe, and nobody else was, or very few other people were, and because of challenges. So it's more a matter of taking the challenges that you were given and making things better. And that's not an easy thing. I'm not going to say that I'm Mr. Perfect about it, or that I didn't suffer tremendously through those challenges, but I think knowing that information and applying that is crucial.
What was your relationship with Yochi Ruby?
We're good friends. We had a lot of fun together. He's somebody dearly. He's somebody who, sorry, he was somebody that he was the life of the party. He's somebody, one of the most beautiful things that he did is he didn't just look at you for being Hasidish or not Hasidish or from here or from there. He was somebody who loved everyone. He was somebody that brought a lot of people together. I met so many quality people because of him. He was glue. He literally was. We always had fun together.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think this episode will be coming out like a day or two before his yard sale, so it's actually pretty amazing. But it's all yours. Give some shout outs, Ben. Give shout outs to all your friends.
I'll give a shout out to you. You're a lady, somebody who does incredible things. You care about people tremendously, and you're making the world a better place. You're child, in spite of them, you've done incredible work. You worked, who is productive and smiles constantly. And my bracha to you is continue doing everything you're doing and just make the world a better place. Thank you so much for having me.
Amen, but not me. I want you to give some shout outs to other people that you're friends with.
Well, if you give shout outs to one, then the other one, so you didn't shout them. So shout out to everyone. Everybody have a fantastic day. Hope you gained something from this conversation. And thank you again, Yehuda.
Thank you. Have a great day. And where are you for Shavuos, actually?
I'm here, home in the city.
Okay, enjoy. All right.
Thank you
enjoy.
so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No
Enjoy.
problem. Have a good. Bye bye.